This is Groove Talk with Froggy Style.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Groove Talk. On this episode, we will be counting down my top 10 favorite albums that have been released in the Calgary area. Actually, it's not albums, it's more like music releases. Some of them are EPs, some of them are just collections of music. Anyways, we're counting down the top 10 because we are recording this right in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic thing that's going on right now. So I thought it might be irresponsible of me to ask people to come to my house and record podcasts. So we kind of had to come up with some creative solutions for content. And this is one of the ideas that we came up with. And at least that's until I figure out the whole online interview Zoom thing, which might take me a while. I'm like, even though I do a podcast, I'm extremely like technology fail.
You're not a technophile.
No, I'm a technology failure. Anyways, I am also joined today by Tierra Penner. She's going to help me count down these top 10 music releases. Introduce yourself.
Hi, you already introduced me. I'm Tierra.
Okay. Great. Super. Anyways, just as a caveat to this is, as with any top 10 list, this is my personal opinion. I'm sure there's lots of great music out there that I haven't even heard that should be on the list or would be on the list. But like I said, I haven't heard it. And also, I've only been in the Calgary music scene listening to music for about four or 5 years now. So that also kind of influences the top 10 music releases that are on my list. Like I said, these are my opinions, and you can agree with them or maybe not. Who knows?
I like your list. The only thing I think it's missing is Thomas.
Okay.
Though they were one of my favorite things that I discovered this summer, for sure. They're just super upbeat, and I just love their music. But I do enjoy your list a lot, and I'm excited to count down it.
Okay. Well, your opinions and criticisms have been noted, and they have been filed appropriately.
Under not cared.
No, I never said that. You said it. I didn't.
Okay.
So, I agree with that. Thomas is also very awesome. And they were going to get an honorable mention, but I guess we're going to get that honorable mention right out of the way right at the start, but that's cool too. Anyways, so I guess we are going to start off with number 10.
So you have These Days by the Vermours as number 10. So why did you really enjoy their music?
So the first time that I came across the Vermours, I was actually making a playlist for Slam Festival. Slam Festival is a music festival that happens in the summer around Calgary. It's a surf and music festival, so it happens down by the wave that is in the river on Calgary. Anyways, I was making a playlist for that, and the Vermours were playing Slam Festival. So I was putting them on the list, and I was listening to their music. And as I was listening to the music, I found it really awesome. It's really cool. It's kind of like surf rocky. It has like a real 70s feel to it.
I remember they almost had like a Beach Boys vibe.
Kind of, but more like hard rock Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Like cooler Beach Boys. I'm not saying the Beach Boys aren't cool, but anyways. So then I ended up seeing them at Slam Festival because we went, and I fell in love with their live performance and their chill rock vibes. It was perfect for that day, and I've seen them now play live actually only at local music festivals. I saw them at Honey Fest, and I also saw them at the Big Winter Classic, and all the times I've seen them, it's been awesome. So yeah, that's why this one makes kind of number 10. I really enjoy their music. It's really cool. It's really chill. I I think my favorite song off the album, I think it's called Make Love Like the 60s or something like that. I think it's the second or third song. Anyways, that's probably my favorite song. Every time they play it live, I really dig it. And yeah, that's why the Vermours these days made it onto number 10 of my favorite albums that have been released in Calgary.
You should make a playlist of like one of the songs for each of the albums.
Actually, that's what I was that's what is going to be, because I do the monthly Let the Groove Talk mixtape.
Yeah.
So I do that on a monthly basis. On the first Monday of every month, we have a playlist that gets released through Spotify. And May's playlist is actually going to include 2 songs off of each of these albums for your listening pleasure.
Nice.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. Okay, so number 9, you had Violent Nature by Woodhawk. I loved seeing Woodhawk. I have their tank top. It's like my favorite tank top.
Yes, Woodhawk is awesome. It really kind of goes back to I used to be a really big fan of metal music in my like teenage years and my high school days. So Woodhawk just kind of as I grew older, my taste diversified, and I don't really find myself attracted to metal music as much anymore. I still really appreciate it, and I like to listen to it every once in a while because, like, honestly, if you want like really good like instrumentation and people who like really know how to play their instruments, like metal is a really good place to find that. The thing that really kind of gets me with metal is kind of the vocals, and like it's just so deep and guttural, and I don't know, I like the thing that I like about Woodhawk is that it's like hard rock / metal, but it has like the vocals that you can understand, and they're not afraid to also like take it down a little bit and like go into like a softer, slower song.
It's very like listenable.
Yeah, for sure. Like if you're not a metal person and you don't like metal music, Woodhawk would be like a great introduction into metal music. So the first time that I came across Woodhawk, I actually did they were like doing a re-release for their first album, Beyond the Sun, and I forget who I talked to on the phone, but I talked to one of the guys on the phone and we did like a quick interview that way. But as they were releasing Violent Nature, I had Turner come in and we sat down and we had a really great conversation. And the thing that I would compare Violent Nature to, it's like Woodhawk sounds a lot like Mastodon, and I know you don't really know who Mastodon are, but they're like a really kind of progressive metal rock band. And Beyond the Sun, I kind of compare to their Blood Mountain, and Violent Nature is like their Crack the Sky. For all you Mastodon fans out there, this will make total sense. But like, whereas Beyond the Sun was kind of more, you know, it was heavy, but it still also kind of, it wasn't as like personal, I guess. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as personal to like the people who were creating it, whereas Violent Nature is, and it's like more, it isn't just like that kind of like heavy vibe. It goes all over the place, and it's really awesome. And like Crack the Sky is one of my favorite Mastodon albums. It's actually one of my favorite albums of all time, and I would compare that to Violent Nature in the progression of Woodhawk. So also I think Weightless Light, the breakdown on Weightless Light in like the first 30 seconds of that song is insane. I like will listen to that song, the first 30 seconds, like over and over and over again, because that is just how awesome it is. It's like so groovy and so heavy, and it's just a really solid album too. Like I said, it goes all over the place. Yeah. There's like some rock ballads, but it still has that like really heavy metal vibe to it too. So I
remember really, really enjoying the live show that we saw by them. It was just a really good show.
Yeah, they're great. They're great performers as well, and like I said, this album just shines, and it's a great album.
So for number 8, you have Baby Girl Galactic, Future Womb. Now, do they still play in Calgary?
No, actually, I believe Future Womb has since moved to Vancouver, but when this album was released, it was released in Calgary, so that's why it's on my list. So the reason this one is on, this one's actually kind of maybe a little bit different from all the other albums that are on the list. This one's like really, and it's like really different from the music I tend to find myself listening to. It's really like kind of, I don't know, it's like psychedelic synth pop or something like that. That's the best way I can describe it.
That is a good description.
Which I love it. I love interesting and weird music. I love things that are different. I love things that are unique. And I just found myself drawn to this album the very first time I listened to it. I actually reached out to Michaela, who is the lead singer of Future Womb. And when she was releasing this album, I asked if I could do a review on it. And she gave me, she gave me the listening privileges to her album before it was released, and I got to listen to it, and I did a review on it. But the first time I listened to it, I was just like blown away by how like cool and different, and just like the sounds on it, and just it was so cool and interesting. It's like I think I described it in the review as it's like a psychedelic space beach party or something like that. It's so interesting and so unique, and it's also really vulnerable. Like the lyrical content of it is really vulnerable, and it's like just I don't know. I'm very attracted to just realness in music.
Is this the one that you woke me up to listen to the one morning because it was on CJ?
Oh yeah, we did do that one time when they were playing live on CJSW.
Yeah, that was the first time I heard them, and I was just absolutely blown away. Like I'd never really heard anything like it. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's super unique and super cool, and like it's just different, and it's with the synths on it, and like the interesting guitar licks and all of it, and it's just the timing, and each song is like a treat to listen to because you don't know what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. So it's really kind of cool in that way too.
When we saw them live, I was not expecting... I kind of had forgotten listening to it that one morning.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really listened to it since then. And then we saw them live, and I was just like... I just didn't really expect it. And then it was just the funnest thing to like listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they put on a great live show too, and just like their live aesthetic is like
so cool.
So, something to really appreciate too. I love artists who really pay attention to their live show, whether it be like with what they wear or like the energy that they bring. But I love artists that you can tell have like at least maybe had a discussion about their live show, or they have like done it so many times that they just like bring an energy that
for sure
it's hard to like not get into it when bands bring an energy like that.
Yeah, I find when we go to live shows, the more energetic the bands are about their music, the more I find I'm getting into it.
Yeah, I've said that like many times on this podcast, is like the more the more excited the band is about their music, it's hard, it's contagious, it's hard as an audience member not to get into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's music that you wouldn't normally find yourself listening to, if the band is stoked to be playing it and they give off that energy that they're really stoked to be playing it, and they want you to be stoked too, it's hard not to be stoked and dance along.
Yeah, I had this really weird experience, kind of like a detour here, but my old housemate got tickets, and we went to like a country blues type show at the Jubilation Theater. I think it was like a sit-down theater where we watched these people, but they had like this light show, and they were getting into it, they were all over the stage, and they were just so energetic, and like the whole audience was just sitting there watching them, and I was like, I want to get up and dance, but this is like the weirdest energy, because like the band was putting off so much energy, and like I was picking up on it, and I'm sure other people were too, but the vast majority of people were just sitting there watching, and I was like, is this normal? Yeah. I don't know what to do.
Well, that's the thing too, is you have to, I don't know, I guess, play to the venue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because some venues are totally not accommodated, but set up for stuff like that. Their dance floors are set up to like have people go nuts and dance and whatever. And then some, like the Jubilation or the Jubilee or whatever, they're sit-down venues, and it's just a different energy or whatever.
Yeah.
That being said, I've seen some great shows at the Jubilee. Actually, I've seen one show at the Jubilee that was great, but it was Mother. But no, actually, I've seen a couple shows, but Mother was great at the Jubilee.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Number 7, you have here Indigo Hours by Alter Ego Collective.
Yes, I do.
This is the one you put last year on a playlist, right? It's like Indigo Skies and Indigo this. And...
Yeah, it's...
I get that song stuck in my head all the time.
It's the only hip-hop album that made it onto this list, I guess. The first time I heard Indigo Hours, I was hooked. It's, I think, 7 songs, and it's a relatively short, like, EP, but it's the first EP released by Alter Ego Collective. He has, since released other albums and EPs since then, but I just remember that a mutual friend of me and Kyle, that's his name, he sent me the album and I listened to it, and the first time I listened to it I was just hooked. Like, it was exactly kind of what I want hip-hop to be, in a way. It's just kind of fun and chill, and it's something that you can kind of just like bob your head along to.
Yeah.
Which is like the style of hip-hop that I'm really into.
I'm not drawn to listen to hip-hop almost ever, but I do find myself going back to the one playlist you released last year around this time and listening to Alter Ego Collective on that playlist because it's just so fun.
Yeah.
And it's just easy to listen to.
Yeah. And like the cool, like I do like hip hop, and I like a lot of hip hop. It's just like the hip hop that I'm really attracted to, it usually has like a chiller vibe or a funkier vibe or something like that. So, I mean, this is like all that. The songs, I think it's called Indigo Hours or something, but it's like the second song, but like the synth lines on it are just so like psychedelic and trippy.
Yeah, they're really cool.
They really fit in with like kind of the chill cadence of Alter Ego Collective. And I think it's the 4th song, and I forget what it's called. I'm terrible with song names, just so you all know. Like, I'm so bad with song names. But it's like the 4th song or the 5th song on this album, but it's just so like upbeat and funky, and it's got like this cool like sample track on it. And again, just the cadence of Alter Ego Collective like brings a really chill vibe to this whole album, and I really, really dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're one of the hip-hop artists that I do find myself going back and listening to.
And also, Kyle's a great person. He's been on the podcast, I think, 2 times now, and I just have a blast talking to him. And he's the nicest guy, too. He's just so supportive of the local music scene and everybody in it, and it's really cool to see. And I just, like, appreciate Kyle as a human being as well as a musician.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is he part of Alter Ego Collective?
He is Alter Ego Collective.
Oh, that's just him.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
It's a singular person, yes.
Neat.
So.
Okay, so number 6, you have High Plains by Crooked Spies.
Yes.
You have so much Crooked Spies stuff around your house. You have like a sweater and a toque, and I don't even know what else.
I only have a sweater and a toque.
Oh, okay. I feel like I've seen other stuff, but maybe I haven't.
Well, like, I guess the story behind that is, so I asked Crooked Spies to be on the podcast, and they, graciously accepted, and I had a great time talking with the guys, and when they released this album, High Plains, they actually asked me if they could appear on the podcast again. I was like, yeah, sure.
Oh, nice.
And, they actually, they're really nice guys. They're awesome. They're really solid. It's both podcasts I did with them were just a blast, and I had so much fun talking to them. And the reason I like ended up with like a sweatshirt and a toque and stuff like that is because they gave it all to me. They
tight.
Supplied me with some T-shirts, some toques, guitar picks, and like a sweatshirt, and it was all for like merch giveaways.
Yeah.
But I kept a sweatshirt and a toque for myself, and I gave the rest away. So they're really, not only are they really good musicians, they're really solid dudes.
Yeah.
And High Plains is great. Like, it's one of the first local albums that I listened to where I was like, this is like, because it was like it's a little on the heavier side. It's kind of like, it's rock, but it's like maybe some like the first half is kind of like hard rock, and like the second half of it kind of tones it down a little bit, and it's a little bit softer. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's how they planned it out. Mm-hmm. They wanted it to kind of be like a kind of like a record. You know, you have your A side and your B side.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how they planned it out. But
That's neat.
this is one of the, like, all the songs are just awesome. Like, again, I think it's the third song. I'm sorry, I forget the name, but I know it's the third song off the album. It's just so... there's just a riff in it that is just so heavy, and it just, like, again, coming from that metal background, it just really attracted me to them. And just, I remember going actually to the release show for this album, and they are one of those bands who just gives you all the energy on stage. Like, their live show is phenomenal. Like, you could not help but be into their music from how they act live on stage. They're so stoked to be there. They're so stoked to be, at least at that show, they were just so stoked to be playing the music, and it was great. It was it was a cool show and a cool experience for sure.
Sounds like they have a lot going for them. I love it when bands put together albums, they really put thought into which song goes where and, like, how it flows together. It's like some of my favorite albums, like, growing up, had that kind of music where it just kind of flowed from one song to the next, and it didn't feel like this abrupt change. But, like, from the beginning to the end of the album, there obviously was, like, a very distinct, different sound, but it didn't feel that way when you were listening to it.
Yeah, those are my favorite albums too, right? I really appreciate when bands put thought into they don't treat an album as just like a collection of random songs.
Yeah.
But
it's like
each album has a feel, and each album is like an art piece of its own.
Yeah.
And those are the albums that I'm really attracted to. Actually, like, I talked about it on an upcoming podcast. It's the podcast that's going to be released later this month, but I did it with the Galacticas. And we actually talked about it on that podcast, how, like, I don't know if I say that I like bands sometimes, but I really only like one album from a band or one or two albums from a band. And it's like, am I a fan of the band at that point, or do I just like this album? You know, it's kind of, that's the way I listen to music. That's the way I've always listened to music. Well, maybe not always, but I really do just appreciate the album. And I think that's kind of stemmed from my exposure to Pink Floyd at an early age, and, like, smoking weed and listening to Pink Floyd, and, like, all of the album of Pink Floyd is just, like, you can't just listen to one Pink Floyd song. It's not as good if you don't have the rest of, like, the context of the whole album around it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's why anytime a Pink Floyd song comes on, like, the radio, like, they'll play The Wall Part 2 on the radio all the time, and I'm like, this is, like...
It's less good.
It is less good, because they have the song before it builds it up, and it's like, it has this whole, like, epic symphonic thing, and it just builds it up, and then it hits it's like, at the crescendo, it hits that screen, and then it drops into this, like, chill, you know, we don't need... Anyways, that's my rant on that, but that's why albums are awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, Crooked Spies, High Plains, definitely one of my first loves in the local music scene, for sure. So.
Okay. For number 5, you have Sideways in Time for Gone Cosmic.
Yes. Gone Cosmic. So the first time I actually even knew who Gone Cosmic were, they actually appeared on the podcast. And what I was doing is I was doing a bunch of podcasts for Big Winter Classic 2019. So what I was doing is I was having guests on that were playing 2019 Big Winter Classic, and I was releasing one every week. And so Gone Cosmic was one of those bands. Yeah. Actually, 3 of the bands on this list are because of those interviews.
Wow.
So Future Room was one of them, Gone Cosmic was the other, and the next artist will be the third band. But anyways, I met Abby and I met Darty. They were just awesome people, and it was really fun talking to them. And then I got to go to that Big Winter Classic, and I saw them live, and it just, like, kind of, like, blew me away. Mm-hmm. It's kind of got that, like again, coming from a more heavier background, it has all that, and it has, like, the super technical instrumentation, the really tight, like, guitar solos, and, like, the drums are fast and pounding, but still technical, and just all of it comes together to kind of create like this heavy ambiance. But then like the vocals of Abby are just like so like powerful and haunting and just like beautiful in general. It provides like a really good contrast to like the heavy music.
It feels very, at least from the couple of times I've listened to them, it feels like the music is, they're doing a very interesting contrasting thing where the music almost feels very masculine, and then this like very, very feminine haunting voice comes in.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's like it's cool and it's different, and like it's just, again, like when I saw them, that was January of 2019, and like their album didn't even come out until April. I think it was April in 2019, but just I knew that after seeing them live, I knew that they were planning on releasing an album because I had talked to them in December, but I knew that I would be purchasing that album for sure. Because I just, after seeing them live, I was like, this is, and I listened to that album so many times when it first came out, and I would always play it for my friends, and like I have a few friends who are still kind of like more into like metal music and stuff like that. And they even were like, oh man, who is this? Like, this is really tight. And like, you know, a lot of that, like, that's a high compliment coming from like some of my friends, because they're very like, I don't want to say, like they're kind of purist about the music they listen to. So
they're very metal based.
But it was just, it's cool. It's cool. It's got like everything. It's kind of got that heaviness to it, but it also can be vulnerable and light. And it's not light even. It's just like very real and just, I don't know, like ethereal. It's like ethereal, and it's great, like heavy stoner rock music.
Yeah. I agree. 4 is First Time Full Time from Long Time No Time. Yes. I love Long Time No Time.
Yes. And this is the third and final band on the list that came from those interviews that I did for Big Winter Classic. Mm-hmm. And getting to sit down with the guys, it was really cool to learn how they put together music. Because for those of you who don't know, Long Time No Time is like it's like a rock jazz band.
Yeah, it's
like,
amazing.
It's got a full horn, like, you know, it's trumpets, saxophone, trombones. There's like 6 members. It's got all the horns, and it just like, it's real cool. It's like funky, but it's still like jazzy, and they go through a bunch of different genres and stuff like that. And like they somehow like do sweet, like cool jazz band stuff, and then throw hip hop lyrics over top of it, and it's just so fucking cool and so different, and it's just impossible not to get excited about their music. It's so upbeat and just so fun, and it's awesome.
Coming from a place, when I heard them for the first time, I was really coming from a place of where I really liked jazz music, and that's like a lot of what I listened to, and a lot of what I like would go and see was jazz music. So listening to them was just like this, it like kind of opened another door. It was like, oh, jazz music can be like this weird funky thing, which like I already knew, because like lots of jazz artists were the ones that like broke down these music barriers, and it was just the music. I love the history of jazz, but like Long Time No Time just took it to like another level, and I just really enjoyed listening to them because of that.
Yeah, they're like the renegades of jazz,
which, you know, can be said throughout history.
Yeah. But it's awesome. It's just, I don't know, they make like they kind of take jazz music and like funk music, and they make it more accessible for the masses.
Yeah.
And just when I was talking to them, just finding out the way that they actually put together their songs was so cool, because they all come from like a jazz background. They've all played in jazz bands, and that's I think how they met was through the U of C jazz band.
Oh, nice.
So the way they put together their songs was interesting, because somebody like Daniel, I believe, the saxophone player, he writes most of the music, but he writes all the parts. You know, he comes in and he has sheets for them, and he gives it out, and then they kind of jam it out in that way. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time that I had interviewed a band where they came to like the table with such like a professional way of making music like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of bands, like they have ideas and they'll jam it out and figure it out, but this was like all very structured. And I guess if you're playing with like that many horns and that many different tones, you kind of have to make it that way. But I just thought it was very interesting the way that they wrote this album, but then they also, because if you go back and you listen to the interview, you'll find out that they weren't afraid to improvise either, and some of the best moments that they did have came from like straight up improvisation. So,
which is the best moments in all of jazz.
Yeah, well, I think that's like the sign of a like kind of a true musician is, you know, being able to play along with the structure, but knowing when to take those moments and like throw in your own flavor and improvise.
Yeah, it's like you have to learn how to play as a group, but also know when to take those risks and kind of like step out and like really showcase your instrument.
Yeah, because those are like those are some of my favorite parts in music. Is just like those things that are not part of the songs that they're playing, but you can tell are just like jam sessions on stage.
Yeah.
That were like, whether it be solos or like everybody goes across doing their whole solo
Yes.
thing. It's like some of those are my favorite moments from any band. Like the things that you weren't expecting, especially from like bigger bands. I love it when people don't just play the song.
Yeah.
Because like I've said it so many times on this podcast that if I wanted to just listen to the album the way that it was recorded, I would stay home in my own house and just listen to it on big speakers. The reason I'm going to a show is because I want that extra, you know?
Yeah.
Also connection with humans. Like there's something special to be said about a group of humans getting together for the same purpose.
Yeah.
You know, coming together just all to listen to music.
Which I feel is going to be, I don't know, it's been hard the last little while because we haven't been able to go to any live shows or do anything like that.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I'm really starting to miss about, like, with this whole COVID thing going on. It's the live music is really, and it's not like, I would get out every week, but it was a couple times a month, and it's just you don't really miss it, or you don't realize until it's gone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was super poorly said, but
yeah, you don't even realize that
you don't realize what you have until it's gone. That's
a
better way to say it. Anyway,
yeah,
sorry.
I didn't even realize how often we went to live shows until we haven't been to one in like almost 2 months.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like it was just cool to have the option.
Yeah,
it's like I said it to a guy at work, like when this whole thing was going down. It's just, it's not like I'm the most social person. I don't go out every single weekend or whatever, but
you like
I'm actually
I'm
mostly like a homebody. I like being at home. I like doing my own thing, but it's when you don't have the option to go out and you really start to miss it and notice it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
If one thing does come out of this whole COVID thing, I hope that it's an appreciation for what we have, the opportunities we have in this country, and like what we get to do, like
and
the
like,
interactions that we get to have with each other, and like being able to just go see live music basically almost any day of the week in Calgary.
Yeah, it's insane. Like before you kind of showed me what the music scene was like in Calgary, I didn't even realize that we had a music scene, to be honest. Like I knew like 2 or 3 jazz bands. I'd go see them a couple times a year, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's just it's a thing that I am very much looking forward to getting back to. I hope that the music scene isn't too affected by this whole thing, because I know it's going to be hard on music venues. It's going to be hard on bands. It's going to be hard on everybody. So I guess this is just I guess this is just a PSA that if you have the spare funds, maybe support the venues. If they are doing, takeout orders or stuff on their food, maybe
or like
throw some extra money that way,
or buy merch from the bands.
Yeah, buy merch from the bands, buy their music. I know you've all probably heard it a million times before, but it's just a reminder, because people are struggling right now, and if we can help each other out, if you have the means to help each other out, then I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated by those who are on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 3 is Please Hold by the Corey Hotline.
Yes.
This is one that, like, I am so fond of. We went on a road trip and I listened to this album over and over and over again until you were like, hey, switch the music. But like, I'd never really heard anything like it. It was just, every song was just so filled with emotion, and it was just this incredible listening experience.
Yeah, this is a great all-around album. I had like no idea who the Corey Hotline were until they came onto my podcast. I asked them on, and they gave me this album. They actually made up like a little press kit from me, which I thought was really cool because I forget that I'm in the media sometimes, so because it's just so fun, and I'm still blown away anytime a band wants to come and talk to me. But they made up a little press kit for me and included the CD and some other fun little things, and I just remember listening to the CD for the first time and just being like blown away. Like, all the songs are super solid, and it goes all over the place. It's kind of like, I don't know, kind of punk rocky, but with like an emotional edge to it.
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
Some of the songs are super real, and like I feel like it just deals with all your kind of punk rock tropes like heartbreak and change and just not being comfortable in your skin and stuff like that. And it's a cool album, and the Corey Hotline has quickly became one of my favorite bands in the city for sure.
Yeah, they're just, I don't think that I've seen them live, but I've listened to their albums so many times. As soon as I hear like an old telephone, like, I'm like, oh, it's the Corey Hotline. Just instantly.
And then this album goes to kind of what we were saying before. They did pay attention to how the album is laid out.
Yeah, it's gorgeously laid out.
Because the way it opens up is it's just like dial tones. It's somebody dialing a phone and it ringing, and they're calling the Corey Hotline because they tell the story on the podcast. But I guess there was this thing in the 90s called the Corey Hotline, and it was Corey Feldman and Corey Hart, the two Corys of the 90s. And you could call this hotline and you could talk to one of these Corys, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, and so the whole thing opens up with them dialing the number, and then it's ringing, and it's like, you have reached the Corey Hotline, please hold, or whatever.
Yeah. And
then it ends the album with the phone gets answered. It's like, hey, you've reached Corey. Hello.
Yeah, no, it's such a fun listen too.
Yeah, it's a fun listen, but it's still like super real and super upbeat at times, but also it's one of those albums that like can take it down and does it well, and it's like it has the appropriate amount of rise and fall.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it when albums go up and down in intensity and emotion and like tone and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know which song it is. It's the one about the mountains and the prairies.
Yeah.
And it's just like, every time I listen to that song, I just get chills. I just love that song so much, and it's just so fun to sing along to as well.
Yeah. No, that's a super great song. I think it's song number 6. Again, sorry to all the bands that I can't name your songs. I know where exactly they are on the album. That's because usually when I'm listening to music, I'm still one of those people who just like, I'll put the first song on the album and I'll listen straight through the album. So I know exactly where it is on the album.
Right.
But I don't know the name. Also, the last song, Threads, I know the name of that song.
That one's a good one.
Super, super cool. Super chill at first, and then it like builds up into this like cool crescendo to finish it off, and it's just super solid ending. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. Cool.
Number 2, we're at Diagnostics by the Galacticas.
Yes. This would have been my favorite album if it weren't for finding out about the current number 1 holder, but I love the Galacticas. I've done now 4 podcasts with them, and basically every single release that they have made, they have come on the podcast for. Like their first EP, it was just a 4-song EP that they put out, and I remember listening to that for the first time and just being like, I cannot wait until these guys put out new music. It was the first local band that I ever had that thought about. Like, I heard it and I was like, I can't wait for more from these guys.
That's awesome.
And I had them on the pod. It was like episode 15 of the podcast or whatever. And that was the first time that I had Anthony and Will on of the Galacticas. And it was just so fun, and we were all just a bunch of big nerds, and we nerded out about Star Wars. And every podcast since it was right at the beginning when they were just putting out new Star Wars content, and then they came on for the second podcast. They came on. It was for promotion of the Diagnostics album. And again, we just nerded out about Star Wars, and then they came on for the Emoticon EP, which was the third time they were on, and then they were just recently on because they are releasing a new album in June, which I'm super excited for. But Diagnostics is like a pop punk treasure. I love it. If you're fans of like Blink-182, also Billy Talent, I guess, but like you'll fucking love the Galacticas and you'll love Diagnostics. It's every song on it is just awesome. I seriously love every single song on it. It's there's not many albums that you can say that about, you know. Some of my favorite songs are the Ego Industry, the Alderon song. See, like, I love this album so much that I like know all the names of these songs.
Oh no. The only one.
No, maybe, but and like as the name suggests, in the Alderon song, they have a Star Wars song, like, or it's not just Star Wars, but it's like
it has that like feel.
Yeah, it's just something that I can super relate to because they kind of take that nerdiness and they apply it to like this pop punk kind of formula, and it just produces gold. I think, like, I can relate so much to every single song, but that's just because like I'm a kid from the 90s who grew up with like all these references, so like it's just super relevant to me.
Yeah, I do really enjoy listening to them. I haven't listened to them as much as I have wanted to, just because there's so much other music that I have on my list to listen to that, like, sometimes I don't get around to them. And then I'm like, oh, this is your favorite band? Oh, no, I haven't listened to enough of them.
Yeah, no, the Galacticas are super solid, and it's cool because, like, kind of becoming friends with the guys a little bit over, like, through the podcast even. Like, me and Anthony, who's the lead singer of the Galacticas, found out we had a mutual friend. So we started, like, you know, going on snowboard trips, and skis. I snowboard, but we started going on ski trips together, and it's just been a joy getting to know these guys. They're super solid dudes, and like they just like they're my people, you know. They're nerds from the 90s who play music. It warms my heart. Like I said, they are coming out with a new album in June, and actually the other episode of Groove Talk that you will get in the month of April will be an interview with Anthony and Will from the Galacticas. So stay tuned for that, because, again, it was lots of fun, and we nerded out about pop culture like we always do. So just saying, the podcasts that I do with Anthony and Will are the longest Groove Talk episodes. I think.
Yes.
I think the longest one we did was like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and that's the longest Groove Talk to date. So it's been cool to like get to know them, and I'm really excited to hear their new album. And just something that I'm gonna say about the Diagnostics album, the neat thing that they did is that if you buy the actual CD, if you buy the Diagnostics CD, you got a bonus song at the end, and it's a Taylor Swift cover. And it's solid. I love it when they do covers like that. It's super solid, and it's awesome. It just gives you a reason to buy the CD. So stay tuned, or stay on the lookout for their next album in June, because I'm sure it's going to be awesome. And also stay on the lookout for the podcast that I did with them. Like I said, it'll probably come out next week. So yeah, the Galacticas are awesome. Oh, also, another reason the Galacticas are awesome, they do like these cool animated videos that like,
oh yeah, those are cool. I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, again, it's just like straight from the 90s, and it just like pulls at my 90s kid heartstrings. So go on YouTube to search up the Galacticas and watch some of their cool animations.
Doesn't Anthony mostly make them?
Yeah, Anthony makes them all, so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's real cool.
So the number one.
Number one. We are at the number one top 10 favorite local release.
And if Cody doesn't mind, I'd like to share my opinion of this band as well.
Yeah.
So it's We're All Here for Each Other by I Am the Mountain. And I remember the first time I listened to I Am the Mountain. It was at the end of one of Cody's podcasts. He linked the song, and I went and listened to this song. And it was just after I met Cody. It wasn't too long after. And I listened to Motorcycles, and I just sat there, and I was like, oh no, this is my new favorite thing ever. And I went and I listened to all of their music. That same, like, within that hour, I listened to everything. And then I texted my two best friends, and I was like, you need to listen to this song immediately. And I sent them Motorcycles. And my one best friend is like, yep, this is my summer jam. And I think me and them listened to I Am the Mountain every single time we got together that summer.
Yeah, no, I Am the Mountain has quickly become probably one of my favorite bands in the city.
It's my favorite band to go see live. Every time they post a live show, and I'm like, we're going. There's we're canceling any other plans. We're gonna be there.
Yeah, it was cool how I met Colton from the band. He's the lead singer. But again, it was through the podcast. But I was going to do a podcast, and I was going on location because they had asked if I could come down to Market Collective and we could record an episode there. So not being one to like turn down, opportunities too much, I took my portable recorder and I headed down to Market Collective. And it was really cool to just be at Market Collective. It's a cool little thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I went into Market Collective, I met them, and we just ended up sitting on these like bean bags just inside the entrance of Market Collective for like an hour, and I just like held up my little portable recorder and we chatted, and it was a super awesome chat. And at the end of the interview, they gave me the CD, We're All Here for Each Other, and I think I popped it in. Actually, I was coming to see you one time because it was when you lived in
the north,
so it was like a half an hour drive. So I was on my way to go to your old house, and I just popped in the CD and I started listening to it, and I got through the whole CD because it was a long drive, and it was awesome. I couldn't believe how like chill and cool and like how elaborate each song was. So I like instantly fell in love with it.
And like the horns and like just every single part of it is just like this masterpiece on its own, and then they put it together and it's just like absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great. And like out of all the bands in the city, I think I've now seen, even though I think I just discovered them, it's been less than a year since I've discovered them, I think I've seen them the most out of any other band. That
could be due to me being like, we need to go see them. We need to go see them.
I don't know, I'm not any different, but I think I've seen them live 6 times now.
At least.
Yeah, but it was cool because I actually saw them we saw them at Market Collective the one time, which is where I met them, which is kind of neat. And saw them at the King Eddie, which was super cool, and
at the Palomino
for my birthday, which was super cool. And just like then there was the Big Winter Classic, which was awesome, and the dude's Christmas party. And it's cool because like each time it's like a different vibe. It's like a different show, like for example, just at the dude's Christmas party, it was like more mellow, kind of more chill, whereas like we went and saw them at the Big Winter Classic, it was more upbeat, like dancey and stuff like that. So it's cool with the same songs, they can give you different vibes.
Yeah, another thing for them is like not this album, but just like their first album. I think it was an EP actually. There's only like 4 songs or something. I listened to it when I went to Europe. And those are, like, the songs I listened to when I was, like, on the bus or on the plane or whatever. And I just can't believe just how well put together every single song is. Like, I can't pick a favorite almost. Like, they're just all so amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great songwriting, great like just playing together, and they're like one of those bands like.
Oh, they jam out on stage all the time, and it's like my favorite. I think it was Market Collective. There's something went wrong, and so like every instrument did their own solo while they like fixed it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just cool to. Each person is just like a master of their instrument, and it's cool to see. And yeah, they're just a great band together. So
yeah.
So I mean, so that was the top 10 favorite local Calgary music releases. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was a little, like I said, it's a little different from what we normally do here. Normally have a band in and talk to them and stuff like that. But with the whole pandemic thing going on, we are probably going to have to look into a little bit more creative content. It won't just be interviews or anything. There's going to be probably more things like this and some other ideas I have in the bucket. Yeah. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was really cool to actually put this list together. I enjoyed it and just kind of reminisce about all the good local music that is in the city.
Yeah. I am consistently blown away when Cody used to put in our shared calendar all of the music events that were going on in the city that he wanted to go to, and it was like at least one a week. Like, we didn't go to one a week, but like there was so many going on all the time, and I just like it blew me away because I didn't even realize that Calgary's music scene was so big, and now I really miss it.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's the friendliest thing that you're ever going to enter into.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody is so supportive, and like when I first started this podcast, it was weird, and because like I struggled with social anxiety and stuff like that, and just like inviting strangers into my house, and I thought all these people would be like so much cooler than me because they play in a band and stuff, and you just quickly realize that like they're all people, they're all really excited to talk about their art, as most artists are, and nobody has an ego. Everybody is super friendly and super accepting, and just they just want you to be as stoked about the music as they are. And that's why I do this podcast, is I just want you to be as stoked about the music as I am, because it's my favorite thing. Music is amazing, and I constantly blows my mind with the talent that is out there.
Yeah. It's really cool actually going into the local music scene with somebody like you who's met a lot of people. Because there's people from bands constantly being like, "Hey Cody, what's up?" And I'm just standing there like, this is so cool. I just saw them perform.
Like, I mean, the thing is like, you realize just everybody's just people.
Yeah, they're just people, but it's a really cool thing.
Yes. It's a cool thing to realize that no matter, like, everybody's just people.
Yeah.
They do people things, and they have people attitudes. I don't know.
But yeah, everybody in the music scene in Calgary has just been just so nice.
Yeah, everybody's super friendly and very very open and accepting and stuff like that. And I am just going to give a couple honorable mentions for other bands that I think you should check out.
No, Thomas
is definitely one of them. Their self-titled EP is amazing. It's happy, and it kind of has like just again that like poppy feel to it that is just so happy and like straight out of the 60s almost. It's great. Thomas, self-titled EP, check it out. Also, Heavy Dive. Heavy Dive is this like really cool shoegazy, like progressive rock band that's just super fuzzy and like super like pedal oriented and just like really, really cool. I saw them at Big Winter Classic 2020, and they absolutely blew my mind. I caught the entire set, and I just was like standing there fucking gobsmacked at how good they were. Like so insane, so insanely good. And then also another one I think you should keep your eye out for is Sweet Berry Wine.
Oh, they're good too.
Sweet Berry Wine, amazing. If you like funk, get some Sweet Berry Wine in your life.
Yeah.
They have two singles released right now. One is called Cookie Monster. The other one's called Honey Bear. Cookie Monster is absolutely phenomenal. It is the just coolest funk jam that you're ever going to listen to. Maybe not ever. There's a lot of really good funk music out there, but it's in the city, probably the coolest funk jam you're going to listen to.
I have always really enjoyed going to see and like listening to God Spilled the Milk. Just like the vocals and the music, and it just all comes together just really, really nicely, and just like, I don't know, I've always really enjoyed them as well.
Cool. Fun fact, Anthony also plays in that band.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are maybe some other artists just keep your eye out on, because they're all really good, and I'm sure there's so many more that I could say here, but that's all I can think of right now. So like I said, I will be doing a playlist of 2 songs from each of these releases, and that'll be coming out in May, the beginning of May, probably the first Monday. And also I will have links to the social media, and also where you can purchase some of these albums off Bandcamp. It'll be in the episode notes for each band.
Nice.
And I do encourage you, if you do have some extra money kicking around and would like to support some local music, maybe pick up one of these albums, because they're all phenomenal. So
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Tierra, for being my co-host for this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. I like talking about music, listening to music.
Cool. So hopefully, we get back to normal sooner rather than later. But until then, everybody stay healthy and stay safe. And
Stay at home!
Yeah, stay at home. And we will continue to be bringing you content. So thank you. If you like this episode of Groove Talk, why not leave a review? You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Help us break through those evil algorithms and reach the most amount of glorious listeners that we possibly can. For up-to-date information on the show, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can find us at Froggy Style Productions. For more ways to support the show, visit fsproductions.ca.